After the unreal quarterfinals last weekend, we are now left with only 4 teams in the Rugby World Cup and heading towards the business end of the season. In this video, we're going to be looking at the percentage chance of winning the Rugby World Cup, which I've calculated by turning the odds into a percentage. And we're going to see how it's transitioned from before the World Cup, before the quarterfinals, and now after the quarterfinals, and see who is most likely in the bookies' eyes to win the tournament. As always, let me know in the comment section down below if you agree or disagree. Just remember, it's not me. I'm not saying these are the percentage chances in which I'd give the teams. This is just what's out on the market. I think it's interesting to have a little look. So the Springboks, before the Rugby World Cup, they were given only a 15% chance of winning the tournament. Obviously, they were in a difficult pool, so maybe still a little bit low, even considering they were in a tough pool. I thought they always were really going to beat Scotland, and the Ireland game would ultimately not matter in the end. And before the quarterfinals, that went up to 19.4%. They were in a quarterfinal with France, and the bookies really had France to win that game, so they were underdogs and came through by a solitary point, and now find themselves in a semi-final, and one they're definitely expected to win against England. Their chance of winning has now gone up to 48%, a drastic increase from only the 15% chance they were given before the tournament. I'm sure that sort of increase feels quite sweet to many South African fans looking in from afar. They probably felt very disrespected with only the 15%, so I'm sure some South Africans sat in Johannesburg is going to be making a fair few quid. Moving on to the All Blacks. Before the tournament, they were one of the favourites, pretty much on a level with France, given a 24% chance of winning the tournament. That then went down to a 19.4% before the quarterfinals. Now, the All Blacks were in a Rugby World Cup pool in which they were expected to come either first or second. Not many people would have thought they would have slipped up to Italy, and they came through that one with flying colours, putting nearly a 3-digit scoreline on them, which was just unbelievable. But they did lose to France, which knocked some of the market's confidence in them, and they went down to 19.4% before the quarterfinal. Ireland were a very strong team, and the Irish were expected to come through that quarterfinal. But ultimately, the quarterfinal curse caught up with the Irish once more, which is devastating for them. But an emphatic win for the All Blacks, who, as I said, were underdogs going into that game, and their percentage chance of winning the World Cup actually dipped throughout the pool stages. So now it must feel sweet for the All Blacks fans to now be set on a 41.7% chance of winning the tournament, which is once again a huge increase. Not as big as the South Africans' increase from 15 to 48, but still a solid increase from 24 down to 19.4 up to 41.7. Does it surprise you that the South Africans are favourites over the Boks? I'm not sure. Both teams had unbelievable performances in the quarterfinals. Both teams had to hang on at the end, hang on for dear life at the end of those games, and ultimately prevailed. And the Southern Hemisphere teams are definitely doing well in this World Cup. Not many would have thought that there'd be only one Northern Hemisphere team left, especially due to the brilliance of France and Ireland over the last few years. Moving on to England. England started off the tournament, before the tournament, with a 7% chance of winning. Despite England winning against Argentina and going undefeated up until the quarterfinals, their percentage chance of winning actually dropped by 0.3% down to 6.7%. Now, how much has it gone up? It's only gone up in the whole course of the tournament, whilst being undefeated, to 7.6%. Now, that is not a drastic increase at all, considering England are in a semi-final. Obviously, the English are expected to get beaten by South Africa, and quite convincingly so. And if England did get through South Africa, they'd probably, most likely, not to write Argentina off, but be faced with a huge challenge in New Zealand in the final. So the odds are very slim for England and haven't really changed, considering winning throughout the tournament. And I probably presume it's the fact that the English performances have not been all too convincing. Scraped past Samoa, clung on at the end against Fiji, and that's probably why the odds have pretty much stagnated. And moving on to Argentina, they started off the tournament with a 3% chance of winning, which is obviously hugely low. After losing to England before the quarterfinals, in which they were expected to get beaten by Wales, that then dropped to 2.5%, so down by 0.5%. And now what is it at now? Despite beating Wales to find themselves in a Rugby World Cup quarterfinal, their percentage has still dropped from the very first game of the tournament to 2.7%. Obviously an increase since the quarterfinals, but from the 3% before the Rugby World Cup, it's only dropped Sorry, it's not gone up, and it's actually dropped by 0.3%, even though they're in a semi-final. Look, it just pays a tribute to the other incredible teams that are in the tournament. Is probably the reason why it's still so low. Not many people think England or Argentina, me included, let me just say. If I was to see these odds on the England team of the last World Cup in 2019, I might have put a couple pounds on it, but I think there's not an awful difference between putting £5 on England and Argentina to win the World Cup and putting your £5 down the drain. So look, those are the odds of winning the Rugby World Cup converted into a percentage. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Who do you think's favourite? Is it New Zealand or South Africa? Don't try and be funny and say it's England and Argentina, because I won't even take that comment seriously. I hope England can pull a drastic upset and I'll be behind the team all the way to the end. But ultimately, it's time to be realistic, and it is between the reigning and defending world champions in the box and the mighty All Blacks for this year's Rugby World Cup. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and thank you very much for watching.